The massive exploration vessel Celestial Seeker slowed as it approached the third planet of the yellow star system. Captain Zrixal stood on the bridge, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the blue-green world on the main screen. Atmospheric analysis complete. Captain, reported Science Officer Vilara, her tentacles moving quickly across the control panel. The readings are concerning. Zrixal turned to his science officer, noticing the deep purple flush of alarm spreading across her skin. Explain. This planet has oxygen levels that would be toxic to most consortium species. The gravity is nearly twice what we consider standard. The radiation from the star reaches the surface at levels that would require protective suits for our kind. Vilara's voice trembled slightly. And the biological diversity. It's unprecedented. Millions of species, many venomous or predatory. A death world, Zrixal said softly, and yet our long-range scans detected artificial structures and energy signatures. Are you certain intelligent life could evolve in such conditions? The signatures are unmistakable, Captain. There is technology down there, advanced enough for rudimentary space travel, energy production, and global communications. Zrixal clicked his mandibles together thoughtfully. In his 300 cycles of exploration for the Galactic Consortium, he had never encountered intelligent life on a high-gravity world with such hostile conditions. Most spacefaring species evolved on gentle planets with stable environments, moderate gravity, and carefully balanced ecosystems. Prepare the first contact protocols, he ordered, and modify our environmental suits for the extreme conditions. I will lead the landing party myself. The command center erupted in concerned chittering. His second-in-command, Drex, stepped forward. Captain, with respect, the conditions on that planet could be fatal. Perhaps we should send probes first. The consortium's first contact directive is clear, Zrixal replied firmly. When encountering a potentially intelligent species, we must make direct contact to properly assess their development and potential for inclusion in the galactic community. I will not treat this species with less respect simply because they evolved in harsher conditions than our own. 6 hours later, Zrixal led a team of 5 specialists in a shuttle toward the planet's surface. They had chosen a landing zone near a moderate-sized settlement, but away from the densest population centers to avoid causing panic. As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, the team felt the increasing pull of gravity. Their reinforced environmental suits whirred and adjusted, compensating for the crushing pressure that would have otherwise flattened their more delicate frames. Oxygen filters at maximum, reported Medical Officer Threll. Everyone remember to move slowly. The gravity will strain your exoskeletons even with the suit assistance. The shuttle landed in a grassy field at the edge of a forest. Through the viewports, the team could see tall green vegetation swaying in the wind, plants that somehow survived the constant radiation bombardment from the planet's sun. Life signs approaching, warned Security Chief Moores, her claw hovering over her defensive shield generator. Several organisms moving quickly. On the scanners, Zrixal could see heat signatures moving through the trees toward their landing site. The creatures were tall, moving on 2 limbs instead of the more stable 4 or 6 common to most consortium species. Remember, Zrixal said to his team, we represent the entire Galactic Consortium. Whatever these beings are, whatever adaptations they've developed to survive this harsh world, we approach with respect and scientific curiosity. The shuttle door opened, and the landing ramp extended to the ground. The gravity hit Zrixal like a physical blow despite his suit's assistance. He moved carefully down the ramp, each step requiring conscious effort against the planet's pull. From the tree line, several creatures emerged. They walked upright on 2 legs with 2 upper limbs hanging at their sides. Their bodies were covered in artificial layers, some kind of protective clothing, Zrixal assumed, to shield against the environment. Their heads were oddly rounded with forward-facing eyes and small flat features. No protective exoskeleton was visible, which seemed impossible for creatures living on such a dangerous world. The beings approached without visible weapons, though Zrixal noticed their muscles tensing, a universal sign of caution among many species. Universal Translator activated, whispered Vilara. Let's hope their communication is based on principles we can understand. Zrixal raised all 4 of his arms in the consortium's universal gesture of peaceful intent. Greetings, he said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into sound waves that might be comprehensible. I am Captain Zrixol of the Galactic Consortium exploration vessel Celestial Seeker. We come in peace and scientific curiosity. The being stopped a short distance away. One stepped forward, taller than the others, with a covering of silver gray on top of its head. The being's face arranged itself into an expression that exposed its teeth, a gesture that would signal aggression in many species, but somehow didn't feel threatening in this context. "Hello," the being said, the sound captured and processed by the translator. "I'm Dr. Eleanor Chen, representing Earth's United Nations Contact Protocol Division. On behalf of humanity, welcome to Earth," the translator worked. Zrixol felt a surge of excitement. First contact was always the most delicate and rewarding part of his work. "Humanity," he repeated, testing the word. "You call yourselves humans and your planet is Earth?" "That's right," Dr. Chen replied. She gestured to the other humans behind her. "This is our home. We've been watching your ship since it entered our solar system. We've been hoping to meet other intelligent life for generations." Zrixol noticed something extraordinary. These humans were standing in the full gravity of their world, breathing the oxygen-rich air directly, with no protective gear against the radiation. Their bodies weren't struggling under the pressure that was taxing even his advanced environmental suit. "You live here," he said, his voice conveying his astonishment despite the translator's flat rendering. "You've evolved here in these conditions?" Dr. Chen looked confused. "Of course. Earth is perfectly suited for human life. Is something wrong?" Security Chief Moores leaned toward Zrixol. "Captain, their physiology must be incredibly dense and resilient to withstand this gravity. And their respiratory system is processing the oxygen that would be toxic to us. These beings are formidable." Zrixol considered this information carefully. According to all consortium knowledge, planets like this one were classified as death worlds. Places where the conditions were so extreme that complex, intelligent life should not be able to evolve. Yet here stood these humans, not just surviving but thriving in an environment that would kill most consortium species within minutes without protection. "Nothing is wrong," Zrixol assured Dr. Chen. "We are simply impressed. Your world has conditions that are quite different from those where most intelligent species in our experience have evolved." Dr. Chen smiled again, that same non-threatening display of teeth. "We'd love to learn about your worlds too. Would you like to come with us to our facility? We've prepared a place where we can talk more comfortably." Zrixol agreed, and the human led them toward a collection of structures in the distance. As they walked, he observed these remarkable beings more closely. They moved with ease in their crushing gravity. They breathed deeply of their oxygen-rich air. They stood unprotected beneath radiation levels that required special shielding for his kind. And most remarkably, they seemed completely unaware that they were living on what might be the most lethal planet any consortium explorer had ever encountered. The humans had invited Death World monsters to visit their facility. But from their perspective, Zrixol realized with a growing sense of wonder, it was the consortium team who were the strange ones, encased in protective suits just to walk on their world. As the first meeting between humans and the Galactic Consortium began, neither side fully understood how this encounter would change both their futures. The humans didn't yet know they were considered extraordinary, and the aliens didn't yet comprehend just how extraordinary these humans truly were. 3 days after first contact, Captain Zrixol sat in a specially modified chamber within the human facility. The room had been adjusted to lower gravity and reduced oxygen levels to accommodate the consortium delegation. Even with these modifications, the aliens still wore lightweight environmental suits as a precaution. Across the table sat Dr. Eleanor Chen and several other human representatives. The meeting was the 12th such exchange, and with each interaction, Zrixol's amazement at these beings only grew. "So you're saying that most intelligent species don't evolve on planets like Earth?" Dr. Chen asked, leaning forward with interest. "Correct," Zrixol replied, his translator converting his words. "In our experience across thousands of worlds, intelligent life typically evolves on planets with moderate gravity, usually half of what Earth has, stable climates, minimal tectonic activity, and carefully balanced ecosystems with few predators." A human male, Admiral Takahashi of their defense forces, spoke up. "That seems boring," he said with a small laugh. Zrixol's upper eyes blinked in surprise. "Boring? Your world experiences regular natural disasters. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. any one of which would be catastrophic on most consortium worlds. Those are just normal, another human scientist said with a shrug. We build to withstand them or move out of their way. Science Officer Vilara, who had been analyzing the human medical data provided during the exchanges, touched her screen and projected images into the air. Captain, I've completed the comparative physiological analysis, she said. It's remarkable. Humans possess endoskeletons reinforced with calcium deposits that are nearly as strong as our manufactured alloys. Their muscle density exceeds anything in our biological database. Their cardiovascular system can repair itself after significant damage. And their immune response? She paused, her skin flushing with scientific excitement. Their immune system actively hunts and destroys foreign organisms. Most consortium species have passive defenses at best. Humans literally wage cellular warfare against pathogens continuously. Admiral Takahashi looked confused. Doesn't everyone? How else would you fight off diseases? The room fell silent as the aliens exchanged glances. Medical Officer Threll finally spoke. Most spacefaring species come from worlds with few pathogens. Our immune systems are simple because they were rarely challenged during our evolution. Many consortium members live in carefully sterilized environments to avoid any potential infection. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. That explains your reaction when we offered to shake hands yesterday. You weren't being rude, you were afraid of our bacteria. With good reason, Threll replied. We've detected over 600 potentially harmful microorganisms living harmlessly on human skin. Any one of them could devastate an unprepared ecosystem. A junior human scientist raised his hand. Wait, are you saying Earth is dangerous by galactic standards? Captain Zrixal chose his words carefully. Earth would be classified as what we call a Class 5 death world. It's an official designation for planets with conditions so extreme that they should theoretically prevent the evolution of intelligent life. He gestured toward the window, where they could see trees swaying in the wind outside the facility. Your gravity would crush most species. Your oxygen levels would be toxic to many. Your world's tectonic activity would make permanent settlements impossible for others. Your biodiversity includes countless organisms that would be considered apex predators on gentler worlds. The humans exchanged looks of surprise and growing pride. And yet, Zrixal continued, you not only survived here but thrived. You've built civilizations, developed technology, and are now reaching for the stars. From a biological perspective, humans are extraordinary. Back on the Celestial Seeker that evening, the consortium team held an emergency meeting. The ship's large conference room buzzed with concerned discussion as specialists from every department reviewed the data collected from Earth. They drink poison for pleasure, exclaimed cultural anthropologist Nix, her wings fluttering agitatedly. They deliberately consume ethanol and caffeine, substances that would kill most of us because they enjoy the effects. Their recreational activities are even more concerning, added behavior analyst Kroll. They willingly throw themselves down frozen mountains on narrow boards. They jump from high places with fabric canopies for fun. Some even fight each other in organized combat sports. Security Chief Moores slammed her claw on the table. Their military capabilities must not be overlooked. They've spent their entire history fighting each other because their planet has limited resources. Their weapons technology is primitive compared to ours, but their tactics and tolerance for physical hardship are unlike anything I've studied. Captain Zrixal listened to each report carefully. The picture emerging was both fascinating and alarming. Humans were unlike any species the consortium had encountered, creatures forged in a crucible of evolutionary pressure that had created something uniquely resilient. What do we tell the consortium High Council? Asked Drex, his secondary eyes focused on the data screens. Earth doesn't fit into any of our existing protocols for new species. Zrixal considered the question thoughtfully. The truth, that we have encountered a species evolved on a high-gravity death world who possess physical capabilities far beyond consortium norms. A species with natural predatory instincts but also remarkable intelligence and curiosity. Some will recommend quarantine, warned Vilara. They'll see humans as too dangerous to allow into the wider galaxy. And waste their potential? Countered Threll. Their medical knowledge alone could revolutionize our understanding of adaptive biology. They've conquered diseases that would annihilate entire consortium worlds. The debate continued for hours, with the team reviewing every aspect of human physiology, psychology, and society. They analyzed Earth's history of warfare, but also its arts, philosophy, and remarkable progress from primitive tribes to global civilization in a mere few thousand years, a blink of an eye in evolutionary timescales. Finally, Zrixel raised all four of his arms, calling for silence. We will prepare a complete report for the High Council, detailing everything we've learned. But my recommendation will be clear. Humanity represents not a threat, but an opportunity. Their adaptability and resilience could bring new strength to the consortium. The next day, the consortium team invited the human representatives aboard their ship. The humans wore lightweight spacesuits, not because they needed them for life support, but simply to protect them from unfamiliar alien environments. Dr. Chen gazed around the ship's central viewing chamber with wonder. Through the massive transparent dome, Earth hung below them, a swirl of blue, white, and green against the blackness of space. It's beautiful from up here, she said softly. Sometimes we forget that, being on the surface all the time. Zrixel stood beside her, watching her homeworld through her eyes. It is beautiful, he agreed. And remarkable. Do you know that your planet has more varied ecosystems than most entire star clusters in the consortium? Really? I thought all planets would have oceans, mountains, deserts, rainforests. Most habitable worlds in the galaxy are far more uniform. Often a single climate dominates the entire surface with minor variations. Your planet's complex axial tilt, atmospheric dynamics, and diverse geography create a patchwork of environments that is unique in our experience, Dr. Chen smiled with pride. I never thought of Earth as special. It's just home. That is perhaps what makes humans most remarkable, Zrixel observed. You take for granted conditions that would terrify most species. Your children play in microbe-filled dirt. Your athletes swim in vast, uncontrolled bodies of water teeming with life forms. Your explorers climb mountains where the oxygen is so thin that most consortium species would lose consciousness instantly. Dr. Chen laughed. When you put it that way, Earth does sound pretty extreme. So what happens next, Captain? What does your galactic consortium do with a planet full of, what did you call us? Deathworlders. Zrixel turned all four eyes to look at her directly. That is what we must determine. I've sent my report to the High Council, but it will take time for them to respond. In the meantime, we would like to continue our cultural and scientific exchange if you are willing. Of course. Our people are excited to learn about life beyond our planet. This is the moment we've dreamed about for centuries. Admiral Takahashi, who had been examining the ship's design with professional interest, joined them. Captain Zrixel, I'm curious, does the consortium have enemies? Threats you need to defend against? The question caught Zrixel by surprise. The consortium encompasses thousands of worlds across 12 star clusters. We have occasional territorial disputes or cultural misunderstandings, but open warfare has been rare for millennia. Why do you ask? The Admiral shrugged. Just professional curiosity. On Earth, military leaders always need to understand potential threats and allies. Force of habit, I suppose. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Zrixel received an encrypted transmission from the High Council. He excused himself to review it in private. The message was brief but clear. Expedition 7293, observations of species human, received with great interest. Continue assessment but exercise extreme caution. Classification upgraded to potential existential asset concern. High Counselor Zorix will arrive with 2 weeks after first contact. A delegation of 12 humans boarded the consortium diplomatic. Vessel Harmony of Worlds bound for the Central Station, the massive space habitat that served as the primary meeting place for the thousands of species in the galactic consortium. Dr. Eleanor Chen led the human delegation, which included Admiral Takahashi, scientists from various fields, cultural experts, and 2 artists chosen to represent Earth's creative traditions. They had been selected carefully to showcase humanity's diversity while maintaining a cohesive diplomatic front. As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Captain Zrixel visited the human quarters. He found several of them looking distinctly uncomfortable. Is something wrong with your accommodations? He asked, concerned. Dr. Chen smiled weakly. Not the accommodations. We're just adjusting to the lower gravity. It feels like we're constantly falling. Zrixel tilted his head. But we adjusted the gravity in your section to Earth standard. No. Dr. Chen shook her head. You adjusted it to what you thought was Earth standard. It's actually about 70% of what we're used to. We're fine, just a bit wobbly until we adapt. Zrixal's four eyes blinked in surprise. Their calculations had been off by that much? He made a note to recalibrate their understanding of human physiological requirements. I apologize for the discomfort. I'll have the environmental systems recalibrated immediately. Actually, Admiral Takahashi interjected, it might be better to leave it as is. We should start getting used to non-Earth gravity if we're going to be meeting other species. Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. The Admiral is right. Consider it part of our adaptation training. During the 3-week journey to the central station, the humans continued to surprise the consortium crew. The ship's medical officer, Threll, was particularly fascinated by human resilience. You broke your leg as a child? Threll asked Maria Santos, one of the Earth scientists, during a scheduled medical exchange. Yes, falling from a tree I was climbing, she replied casually. It healed in about 6 weeks. I've got a small scar from the surgery, see? She rolled up her pant leg to show a faint line on her shin. Threll's tentacles trembled slightly. And you continued to use this limb normally afterward? Of course. Once the bone heals, it's actually strongest at the break point. I was back to climbing trees within 2 months. The medical officer made extensive notes. For most consortium species, a broken limb would be catastrophic. Many would opt for amputation and a prosthetic replacement rather than wait for natural healing, which could take a full cycle or more and might never restore full function. Similar conversations happened throughout the ship. In the nutrition center, humans casually mentioned enjoying foods that contained mild toxins, capsaicin in peppers, caffeine in coffee, theobromine in chocolate, all substances that would be considered dangerous contaminants by consortium standards. In the recreation area, the humans described their sports and hobbies, much to the horror of their alien hosts. You deliberately throw yourselves down frozen mountains on narrow planks? Asked recreational coordinator Plix, his facial ridges paling to a light blue in distress. Snowboarding? Yeah, it's super fun, replied Jason and Becky, one of the younger scientists. The rush of speed, the wind in your face, the challenge of staying upright. But the injuries. The cold, the altitude. Jason shrugged. You wipe out sometimes, sure. Break a wrist or sprain an ankle. Part of the experience. The humans soon realized their casual attitude toward risk and physical hardship was causing concern among the consortium crew. They began making efforts to downplay the more extreme aspects of their lifestyles. But cultural misunderstandings continued. When the Harmony of Worlds finally docked at Central Station, the humans got their first view of the massive structure through the observation deck. The station was a marvel of engineering. A rotating wheel nearly 20 kilometers in diameter, with spokes connecting to a central hub. Different sections were visibly modified to accommodate the environmental needs of various species. It's incredible, breathed Dr. Chen, watching the station grow larger in the viewport. How many different species live there? Central Station has permanent habitats for over 300 species, Zrixal explained, and can accommodate nearly 1,000 more with temporary environmental adjustments. It is the pride of the consortium. Physical proof that vastly different life forms can coexist in harmony. As the ship docked, Zrixal turned to address the human delegation more formally. I must prepare you for your reception. Word of humanity has spread quickly through the consortium. Your classification as Death World beings has created significant interest. Admiral Takahashi frowned. Is that a diplomatic way of saying we're going to be treated like fascinating monsters? Zrixal's translator struggled briefly with the concept but conveyed the meaning. There will be curiosity, yes. Many species have never encountered beings evolved in conditions like Earth's. But the consortium prides itself on respect for all intelligent life. You will be treated as honored guests and potential future members. The reception area had been modified for human comfort, with gravity and atmospheric settings adjusted to approximate Earth conditions. As the human delegation stepped through the airlock, they were met by a gathering of consortium representatives, a dazzling array of different body types, from insectoid to tentacled to amorphous, each in their own environmental suit or bubble. At the center stood a tall, imposing figure with 6 arms and an elaborately decorated exoskeleton, High Counselor Zorix. Welcome, humans of Earth, Zorix's voice came through the universal translators. You honor the Galactic Consortium with your presence. For many cycles, we have wondered if life could evolve to intelligence on worlds like yours. You are the living answer to that question. Dr. Chen stepped forward as the designated speaker for humanity. Thank you for your welcome, High Counselor. We are honored to represent Earth and humankind in this historic meeting. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn from the collective wisdom of the galaxy. The formal greetings continued, followed by a carefully choreographed tour of the public sections of Central Station. The human delegation marveled at the diversity of life forms and the technology that allowed them all to coexist in one structure. What they couldn't see were the extraordinary security measures put in place for their visit. Behind the scenes, consortium security forces monitored every move of the Death Worlders, ready to respond if their unpredictable biology or psychology posed any threat. That evening, a reception was held in the main diplomatic hall. The humans were introduced to representatives from dozens of consortium worlds, each interaction carefully managed by protocol specialists. Dr. Chen found herself in conversation with a crystalline being that communicated through patterned light pulses, translated by a small floating device. "Your world sounds fascinating," the being communicated. "Our kind evolved on a low-gravity moon with minimal temperature variation and no surface water. The concept of weather is alien to us. No rain or snow, no winds or storms?" Dr. Chen asked, trying to imagine such a place. "Such conditions would shatter our physical forms," came the reply. "We understand theoretically that some worlds experience such phenomena, but to evolve in their presence seems impossible." Across the room, Admiral Takahashi was engaged in a surprisingly technical discussion about defensive systems with a group of security specialists. "So your ships have no point defense weapons?" he asked, clearly surprised. "Most consortium vessels are not military in nature," explained a four-legged being with compound eyes. "Pirates and raiders are rare and typically deterred by system patrols. But what about threats from outside the consortium? Hostile species that haven't joined your alliance?" The security specialists exchanged glances. "The consortium encompasses all known spacefaring civilizations within 12 star clusters. There are occasional disputes, but full-scale warfare has been rare for thousands of cycles." The Admiral nodded but made mental notes. A civilization without significant military capacity would be vulnerable in ways they might not even recognize. As the reception continued, Jason Mbeki found himself feeling increasingly uncomfortable. "Is it hot in here or is it just me?" he asked Maria Santos. "It does feel stuffy," she agreed, wiping her forehead. "I think they're still calibrating the environment for human comfort." What neither realized was that the environmental systems were functioning perfectly to consortium standards. The station's atmospheric mix, while safe for humans to breathe, was significantly different from Earth's. The gravity, carefully adjusted to what the consortium believed was human normal, was still slightly off. The humans were experiencing the mild but cumulative stress of being in an environment not evolved for their physiology, something the YAT consortium species experienced constantly on their homeworlds. 3 hours into the reception, alarms suddenly blared throughout the diplomatic section. Red lights flashed, and the universal translators broadcast an urgent message. "Environmental system failure in Sector 7. Emergency protocols activated." The diplomatic hall erupted in controlled panic. Many of the alien representatives began moving toward designated safety areas, their environmental suits switching to internal life suppy. 2 months after the human delegation arrived at Central Station, Dr. Eleanor Chen stood beside High Counselor Zorix in the main observatory, watching a holographic display of the consortium's territory. 12 star clusters glowed with thousands of inhabited worlds, connected by trade routes and communication networks built over millennia of peaceful cooperation. "It's remarkable," she said. "So many different worlds, so many different forms of life all working together." Zorix gestured with 2 of his 6 limbs, and the display zoomed out to show neighboring regions of space. "And yet the galaxy is vast. The consortium represents less than 1% of the Milky Way. There is much we have yet to explore." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent notification. Zorix's communication device pulsed with a priority signal. "Excuse me," he said, stepping away to receive the message. Dr. Chen watched as the High Counselor's posture changed, his exoskeleton stiffening in what she had learned to recognize as the consortium equivalent of alarm. After a brief exchange, he returned to her side. "I apologize, but our discussion must be postponed. A situation has developed that requires my attention." Dr. Chen nodded. Of course. Is there anything we can help with? Zorix hesitated. Not at present. This is an internal consortium matter. Over the next few days, the human delegation noticed a distinct change in atmosphere aboard Central Station. More security personnel were visible, and many of the public areas were less crowded than usual. Scheduled cultural exchanges were abruptly canceled, and their consortium liaisons became vague when asked for explanations. Admiral Takahashi grew increasingly concerned. Something's happening, he told Dr. Chen during a private meeting in their quarters. I've seen 3 troop transports dock in the last day alone. The consortium is mobilizing forces, but no one will tell us why. I thought they said warfare was rare for them, Dr. Chen replied, frowning. Exactly. Whatever's happening must be serious. Their concerns were validated that evening when Captain Zrixal requested an urgent meeting with the human leadership. His normally composed demeanor was visibly strained. I've been authorized to brief you on a developing situation, he began without preamble. A species known as the Vexcar has launched attacks against 3 consortium border worlds. These attacks were unconventional. Unconventional how? Asked Admiral Takahashi. Zrixal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of distress. The Vexcar deployed biological agents. Not conventional weapons, but engineered pathogens designed to target specific physiological systems common to many consortium species. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Biological warfare, precisely. The results have been catastrophic. 2 of the affected worlds have lost over 60% of their populations in less than a standard cycle. The 3rd is currently under quarantine, but projections are equally grim. The humans exchanged shocked glances. Admiral Takahashi broke the silence. I thought the consortium encompassed all known spacefaring civilizations in this region. The Vexcar were not previously known to us, Zrixal admitted. They appear to originate from beyond the galactic rim, in a region we had not yet explored. They made no attempt at communication before the attacks began. Dr. Chen's medical training immediately kicked in. What kind of pathogens? Viral? Bacterial? What's the transmission vector? Zrixal activated a holographic display showing microscopic organisms. They appear similar to what you would classify as aggressive fungi. They spread through air, water, and direct contact. They target cellular structures common to many consortium species, particularly those evolved on low-gravity worlds. Admiral Takahashi studied the display with growing concern. And your countermeasures? Limited, Zrixal admitted. The consortium has experienced few pandemics in our history. Most of our worlds have minimal disease pressure, and our medical technology has focused on longevity and quality of life, rather than combating aggressive pathogens. In other words, Dr. Chen said slowly, your species never developed the robust immune responses that Earth's disease-filled environment forced on us. Correct. What makes the Vexcar attack so devastating is that it exploits this vulnerability, one common to nearly all consortium species. The humans digested this information in silence. Finally, Admiral Takahashi asked the question on all their minds. Why are you telling us this? Zrixal's translator paused momentarily, as if struggling to convey the emotional content of his response, because preliminary analysis suggests that humans may be resistant to the Vexcar pathogens. Your immune systems, evolved to combat Earth's countless microscopic threats, appear capable of recognizing and neutralizing these alien organisms before they can cause significant harm. The implications were immediate and profound. Dr. Chen stood up. We need to contact Earth immediately. I want our best epidemiologists, virologists, and immunologists working on this. Send us samples of the pathogens to study. The High Council has already approved this request, Zrixal said. A secure communication channel to Earth has been established. We are prepared to share all our data on the Vexcar pathogens. Within hours, a crisis response was underway. Earth's governments quickly grasped the severity of the situation and the unique position humanity found itself in. Teams of Earth's top medical researchers were assembled to study the alien pathogens, while military leaders began discussions about potential defensive measures. The Vexcar, meanwhile, continued their advance. 4 more consortium worlds reported outbreaks, each following the same pattern: initial infection, rapid spread, and devastating mortality rates. Conventional consortium defenses proved ineffective against ships that simply released microscopic spores into planetary atmospheres before retreating. 2 weeks after the initial briefing, Dr. Chen presented the preliminary findings from Earth to the High Council. The Grand Chamber fell silent as she displayed the research results. The good news is that humans are indeed resistant to the Vexcar pathogens, she began. Our immune systems recognize them as foreign invaders and mount an effective defense. The bad news is that the pathogens are unlike anything we've seen before, combining elements of fungi, viruses, and prions in ways that make traditional treatments ineffective for your species. High Counselor Zorix leaned forward. But there is hope? Dr. Chen nodded. Earth's research teams are working around the clock. We've identified several promising approaches, including genetically modified immune cells that could be adapted to different consortium physiologies. It's not a cure yet, but it's a start. How long until these treatments are ready? Asked another council member. For preliminary trials? 2 weeks. For wide deployment? At least a month, maybe more. These aren't simple medicines. They need to be customized for different species. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. A month was too long. At the current rate of Vexcar advance, dozens more worlds would be infected by then. Admiral Takahashi, who had remained silent during the medical briefing, finally spoke. There's another option we need to discuss. Earth can provide more than just medical expertise. We can offer military assistance. The council chamber grew quiet again. With respect, Admiral, said a counselor with translucent skin and floating tentacles, the consortium's defensive fleet is technologically advanced. What could Earth forces contribute that ours cannot? Immunity, Takahashi replied simply. Your crews are vulnerable to the Vexcar bioweapons. Ours are not. Your ships must maintain strict quarantine protocols. Ours can operate freely in infected environments. And most importantly, human soldiers can fight on the ground even in contaminated areas. The implications took a moment to register with the council members. Zorix was the first to understand. You're suggesting that human forces could directly engage the Vexcar, something our own troops cannot do without extreme risk? Exactly. Takahashi nodded. While your scientists work with ours on a cure, let our soldiers handle the fighting. Earth has, regrettably, thousands of years of experience in warfare. It's not something we're proud of, but it's expertise we can offer. The debate that followed was intense. Many council members were horrified at the idea of involving humans directly in a galactic conflict. Others pointed out the practical difficulties. Earth's military forces lacked familiarity with space combat and consortium technology, but as reports arrived of another world falling to the Vexcar pathogens, practical concerns overrode philosophical objections. 3 days later, the first human military advisors arrived at Central Station, followed by engineering teams to begin adapting consortium vessels for human use. Earth's governments had responded with unprecedented unity, recognizing both the humanitarian crisis and the opportunity to prove humanity's value to the galactic community. Dr. Chen found herself working 20-hour days, coordinating between Earth's medical researchers and consortium biologists. The collaboration was challenging but productive, with both sides bringing unique perspectives to the problem. It's fascinating, she told Zrixal during a rare break. Your scientists understand cellular structures at a level we haven't achieved yet. But our experience with fighting diseases gives us insights your people never needed to develop. A perfect example of how different evolutionary paths can complement each other, Zrixal agreed. The High Council is already reconsidering many of its assumptions about what constitutes optimal conditions for intelligent life. As the 6 months after the first Vexcar attack, the galactic landscape had changed dramatically. What had begun as a desperate defense against an unexpected threat had evolved into a coordinated counteroffensive. Human and consortium forces worked side by side, pushing the Vexcar back from conquered territory world by world. On the bridge of the Indomitable, an Earth vessel retrofitted with consortium technology, Admiral Takahashi studied tactical displays showing the latest battle reports. Beside him stood Zrixal, now serving as the official consortium liaison to Earth's military command. Another successful operation, Takahashi noted with satisfaction. The Vexcar are abandoning their positions in the Orion sector without a fight. Zrixal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. a gesture the Admiral had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. They are adapting their strategy. The question is, to what end? Retreat, most likely. They didn't expect effective resistance, especially not from a species immune to their primary weapons. Perhaps, Zrixal said, but his tone conveyed doubt. The Vexcar did not strike me as a species that retreats easily. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Dr. Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Transmission originating from a research station, orbiting a recently liberated consortium world. Admiral, Captain Zrixal, she began without preamble. We've discovered something you need to see immediately. The screen split to show microscopic images of cellular structures. These are samples from Vexcar prisoners taken during the last engagement. Look at the cellular composition. Takahashi leaned forward, though the images meant little to him. What am I looking at, Doctor? Evidence of forced evolution, Dr. Chen said grimly. The Vexcar aren't just using biological weapons, they're using them on themselves. They're trying to incorporate human immune characteristics into their own biology. The implications were immediately clear. If successful, the Vexcar could neutralize humanity's primary advantage in this conflict. How close are they to succeeding? Takahashi asked. Their methods are crude but effective. I'd estimate they're several months away from a viable adaptation. But that's not the worst part. She manipulated the display to show a new set of images. We found these in a captured Vexcar research facility. They're developing a new pathogen, one specifically targeted at human physiology. Zrixal's exoskeleton stiffened in alarm. They seek to turn your greatest strength against you. Exactly. They've been collecting human biological samples from battlefields, studying our immune responses, looking for weaknesses. This new pathogen is designed to bypass human immune defenses by mimicking our own cellular structures. Takahashi's expression darkened. How dangerous is it? Potentially catastrophic. It's still in early development, but their approach is sound. Given time, they could create something that affects humans the way their original bioweapons affected consortium species. The Admiral was silent for a moment, processing the implications. Then we don't give them time. We need to accelerate our offensive, target their research facilities specifically. Agreed, Dr. Chen said. I'm sending everything we've found to Earth and Central Station. Our teams are already working on countermeasures. But the best defense is to stop this research before they can perfect it. After the communication ended, Takahashi turned to Zrixal. We need to call an emergency strategy session with Consortium High Command. I've already sent the request, Zrixal confirmed. But Admiral, this development raises concerning questions about the future of this conflict. You mean the potential for escalation? Precisely. If both sides develop increasingly targeted biological weapons, the devastation could spread far beyond the current battlefield. Takahashi nodded grimly. Welcome to the arms race, another unpleasant human specialty. 24 hours later, leaders from Earth and the consortium gathered in a secure chamber aboard Central Station. Military commanders, scientists, and political representatives debated strategies for countering the new Vexcar threat. High Counselor Zorix presided over the meeting. Our intelligence suggests the primary Vexcar research facility is located on a captured world in the Cygnus sector. Their defenses there are substantial. Then that's our primary target, Takahashi stated firmly. We need a joint operation, the largest we've mounted so far. A consortium military commander raised objections. Such an offensive would leave other sectors vulnerable. The Vexcar could be attempting to draw our forces away from critical worlds. A valid concern, acknowledged Earth's General Rivera. But we can't allow them to develop weapons that nullify our immunity advantage. Without that, this war becomes much more difficult for everyone. Dr. Chen, who had returned from the research station, offered another perspective. There's something else to consider. The Vexcar adaptations we've observed suggest they're becoming desperate. Their original strategy has failed, and they're taking biological risks that indicate they may be willing to sacrifice their own troops to develop these new weapons. Desperation can make an enemy more dangerous, Takahashi noted. Or more vulnerable to a decisive strike, countered General Rivera. The debate continued for hours, with strategic assessments from both human and consortium experts. Finally, a three-phase plan was approved, a diversionary attack in multiple sectors, followed by a direct assault on the Vexcar research world, culminating in a push toward what intelligence suggested was their homeworld region. As the meeting concluded, Zorix approached Dr. Chen privately. "Your insights have been invaluable throughout this crisis, but I sense you have concerns beyond what was discussed today." Dr. Chen smiled tiredly. "You've become good at reading human expressions, High Counselor. A necessary skill when working with such important allies." She nodded, appreciating his diplomacy. "My concern is about the long-term impacts of this war. The consortium has enjoyed millennia of relative peace. Earth has not. We know how conflict changes societies, how it can militarize thinking and priorities even after the fighting ends." Zorix considered her words carefully. "You fear the consortium will become more like humanity in the worst ways rather than the best. That's part of it. But I'm also concerned about how this changes humanity's path. We were just beginning to outgrow our violent history when we met the consortium. Now we're leading a galactic war effort. An effort that has saved countless lives," Zorix pointed out. "Yes, and I don't question the necessity. I just worry about what comes after. Will the galaxy see us only as warriors? Will we see ourselves that way?" "That," Zorix said thoughtfully, "will depend largely on how we all choose to proceed once this threat is contained. But I believe both humanity and the consortium have the wisdom to find the right path forward." The offensive against the Vexcar research world launched 3 weeks later. It was the largest coordinated military action in consortium history, involving hundreds of ships and thousands of personnel from dozens of worlds. Humanity's contribution was disproportionately large in the ground assault phase, where their natural immunity to Vexcar pathogens made them essential for securing the research facilities. Earth's soldiers, trained in environments more challenging than any battlefield they now faced, moved with a confidence that impressed their consortium allies. Inside the primary research complex, a team led by Jason Mbeki, now a captain in Earth's Unified Expeditionary Forces, secured the main laboratory after heavy fighting. "Area clear," he reported over the tactical network. "Science team can move in." Dr. Chen arrived with a mixed group of human and consortium researchers, all wearing protective gear despite the humans' natural resistance to Vexcar bioweapons. "We need to secure all samples and research data," she instructed the team. "Be extremely careful with containment protocols." As they worked methodically through the laboratory, cataloging and securing Vexcar biological research, Jason maintained a security perimeter with his squad. "Hard to believe 6 months ago I was just a researcher myself," he commented to Maria Santos, now a military science advisor embedded with the combat teams. "First contact feels like a lifetime ago." "Everything changed faster than anyone could have predicted," she agreed. "But we've adapted. It's what humans do best." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from Dr. Chen. "Captain Mbeki, we found something you need to see." In a sealed chamber at the heart of the laboratory, the science team had discovered thousands of stasis pods, each containing what appeared to be a Vexcar in suspended animation. "What are they?" Jason asked, looking at the rows of motionless aliens. "Genetic variants," Dr. Chen explained, studying readouts from the Vexcar control systems. "They've been experimenting on their own kind, creating modified versions with varying levels of resistance to human immune responses." "Are they dangerous?" "Extremely. These are living bioweapons, designed to infiltrate human-occupied areas and release tailored pathogens. But there's something else." She moved to a central console, where a consortium scientist was translating Vexcar data streams. "They're not just experimenting with immunity," she continued, her voice growing more concerned. "They're attempting to incorporate human adaptive capabilities into their own genome. They want to become more like